Let me just say that Netflix has a very high standard, and particularly if you want to do a global screening. Yes, we had to do so many things that I can't remember now because they are technical. I had to hire consultants, to hire agents, and then when you want to go to the cinema and go, you have to go through a registered distributor. Then when you want to go to Netflix, you have to also go through another agent that has been licensed by Netflix
Wow.
for that aspect.
If you want to learn about the process of getting your book adapted into a screenplay for Netflix, you better pull your chair closer and listen to Dr. Wale Okediran, because he's been there, he's done it, and he's done a whole lot more. Today, we are fortunate to bring into the Story Warrior podcast a famous African writer, but not only that, a scholar, and yes, he's also played in political circles at the very top in the most populous country in Africa. If you're new to this channel, let me say this. My name is Gideon Fomukwai. I go by the moniker Story Warrior because if you don't tell your story, no one else will help you tell your story. I consider myself a product of Africa, produced in Asia, packaged in America, and distributed worldwide. And I am very honored to be talking to a very seasoned writer who has succeeded to take the book not just from the book, but to the screen. Dr. Okadiran, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Which part of the world are you joining from? I know you're a man of the world.
Good afternoon from Accra, Ghana.
Accra, Ghana. That's amazing.
Yes.
And I know you're not originally from Accra, Ghana. I am originally from Cameroon. I
Okay.
can guess you're not originally from Accra, Ghana. Tell us.
I'm from Nigeria.
From Nigeria.
I'm from Nigeria. Yes.
Okay. So Accra, Ghana is they are very close to home. Home is everywhere in Africa, but why Accra, Ghana?
Yes, thank you for bringing me on to Story Warrior. I like your name. I like it because it depicts what I also do. I fight to get support for writers and storytellers.
I
So I consider myself another story warrior.
Thank you for that. We know we have to have these vuvuzela moments whenever something profound is said. Okay, that is right off the bat. Usually it takes maybe hours before the vuvuzela comes out. It came out so quick because you, Doctor, you are a fellow story warrior. So from my understanding, a story warrior is someone who fights with stories, not with weapons. Because the greatest, if you think a story is not a weapon, it's the most powerful weapon in the world. But the best thing is it doesn't hurt nobody. It doesn't leave no traces, doesn't have no blood, no tears. All it does is it touches your heart and it wins you, it persuades you. So I think you have the gift of the most powerful weapon, the most powerful instrument in the world to move people. So you are in charge of the Pan-African Writers Association. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, thank you so much. The Pan-African Writers Association is an umbrella body for all the writers organizations in Africa. So our membership is by virtue of connecting with a National Writers Association of each country. So now we can say we have about 50 active members, and that is from 50 African countries. I'm the Secretary General, and the hosting nation is Ghana. Ghana has been hosting the association for more than 30 years. And the country provides us with an office here in Accra, which is our national, our headquarters, and also provides some staff and support for the secretariat. We have a council made up of a president, who is currently a Rwanda, Honorable John Sumbi. Then we have vice presidents from each of the African sub-regional sub-regions. We have somebody from East Africa, another West Africa, South Africa, Central Africa, and North Africa. And, vice presidents.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so they make up the council,
Mm-hmm.
and our job is to organize seminars, conferences, uh, translations
Mm-hmm.
for books written by African authors. And you will imagine that African authors write in different languages.
Yes.
They write in English, French, uh, Swahili,
Mm-hmm.
Arabic,
Mm-hmm.
and, and Portuguese. Yes. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so my job here is to find a way to uh, bring all these writers together,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes physically, sometimes virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And we try as much as possible to also do some translations of some of
Mm-hmm.
the iconic books that we need, that we find, that we can all exchange
Mm-hmm.
uh, books across language barriers. So
Mm-hmm.
our vision is actually how to promote African culture. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to promote African solidarity through culture and literature.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
that is powerful.
Yeah.
That is powerful because for me, there's nothing more important than the African story. And with the blessings of having worked in about 20 countries, going for various kinds of events, presentations, I've observed there's a hunger for the African story.
Hmm.
We don't have enough people who are on the move, who are mobile enough to tell the African story in far-flung places. And I've observed that, and it's painful. But I am very, very happy that this is the mission of the Pan African Writers Association. Now, today, I really want us to focus a little bit more on your authorship. But beyond that, the fact that you've also worked as a politician in the House of Representatives in Nigeria, and
Yes.
you've been able to glean things both through the eyes of a political leader, but also through the eyes of a scholar, and you're able to blend all of this into a powerful work. You wrote a book, The Tenant of the House, a
Yes.
powerful book that talks about that. I know a little bit about it, but I think I dare not talk about it when I have the author right in front of me. Please tell us, tell our audience
Thank you
about
so
that
much.
book so that when we get to the point about the adaptation to the screen,
Yeah.
to Netflix, they will understand it better. So tell us about Tenant of the House.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes. Tenants of the House, I would say, came about from my experience as a member of the Nigerian Parliament. Um, because as a writer, anywhere you are, you find stories swinging around you. And when I got to the parliament, it just occurred to me that, look, I could get something out of this place in the form of a factional story, that is facts and fiction.
Factional stories.
Yes.
Okay, story warriors, you better pull your chairs closer and listen to this. Factional stories. Okay,
Yeah.
this is a new term I'm hearing for the first time.
Okay.
Now, can you explain a little bit how
Okay.
you're able to blend fact and fiction together? You call it factional stories
Yes.
through
Yes.
the eyes of a scholar and through the eyes of
Yes.
a politician. That nobody
Thank
can
you.
beat that. No one can take
Thank
that
you.
from you. So go for it.
Yeah, the fact part of the faction is the fact that in the parliament, you are allowed to promote different kind of bills
Mm,
that will address issues confronting your country or confronting your region. And it occurred to me that there is a perennial problem in Nigeria and some African countries, and that is the conflict between, it's a long-standing conflict between the cattle, the herdsmen, the
mhm,
cattle rearers, who
mhm,
drive their cattle around
mhm,
looking for pasture,
mhm,
and the pastoralists,
mhm,
that's the farmers,
mhm,
because this conflict is always there. The cows
mhm.
end up destroying the farmers' crops and
The
everything.
crops.
Yes,
I will be honest. My
yes.
mother, I was raised by a widow in Cameroon. We
Okay.
were victim of the farmer grazier problems, where the grazers of cattle
Hmm.
walk through or graze through our farm with impunity. And for years, we tried to fight them and try to do whatever we could and it never got resolved. It never got resolved. So I'm curious to find out how you were able to use your factional methods to present this and maybe to solve this.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that means you are the real. I patterned my chief protagonist in my book after you, because the protagonist in my book was a victim of Kama Fatu crisis. He was also brought up by a widow.
Oh my goodness, Lord! Oh my goodness, I was the protagonist without even knowing. Absolutely true. Spot on, sir. Spot on.
Yes. He was a lawmaker. He found himself as a member of that, and this is the fictional part. I said, look, let me put this story in the hands of a lawmaker who had a personal encounter with this issue. His father was killed by this Moradin Liaras. He was brought up by a widow, and so when he got into the parliament.
Is he the one who is a medical doctor, former medical doctor?
No. He wasn't a medical doctor. I made him to be a lawyer.
Okay. All right. Which is even better. Sexier, right? Doctors a little bit boring. Lawyers, they got some swag.
Yes. So the fiction part of it was that, okay, let this lawmaker come to the parliament. His main ambition of coming was to put in place a bill that will put an end to this conflict. And so in my story, I depicted him as bringing the bill to the parliament and all the problems he faced, the antagonism from those who didn't want the bill to survive, the corruption that usually goes with trying to push bills across other sides, and then, funny enough, while he led a committee of the House of Reps to the Fulani community to see how they could bring this bill, he fell in love with a Fulani girl, which complicated the whole story.
And I, full disclosure, I once took a good look at a couple, because they're very beautiful women. Some Fulani girls, but they were very. I mean, they come and they go. Before long, they're gone. So, but I would say there were some that were in my village. I'm like, oh, that one is pretty. And before you know, they're gone. So yeah, I can say that protagonist is some strong.
He's the story warrior.
Was a strong story warrior who was not even aware of that.
So that was what happened, and that he could fall in love with the daughter of so-called enemies was another problem for him. And so that was the main. Well, at the end of the day, was able to push the bill across. He had to do a lot of bargaining with the speaker, with the other members of the parliament, because if you want to get your bill across, sometimes you have to support other people so that they can support you. And all the crises he went through, the issue of corruption, bribery, backstabbing, and all that stuff. So that was what was in the tenants of the house. But at the end of the day, he was able to pass this bill. And I believe that this book will be a good one to encourage and to promote conflict resolution across the African countries where this kind of problem exists. So that is it.
You have a point. You have a point, Doc, because all throughout Africa, most countries have cattle. Now, I don't necessarily see farmer grazier issues in Southern Africa where I lived. I did not necessarily see that, but I would imagine in East Africa too, based on some bit of literature, they also have similar problems there. So this book, when was it published? Tenant of the House.
Yeah, the book was published in 2009, and in 2010, it's won the Wale Okediran Prize for African Literature.
No kidding. So it was an award-winning book.
Award-winning book.
Okay.
It was a joint contest, and it took it about 10 years before we were able to make a film adaptation.
Yes, I'm definitely coming to that. 2009, I also came up with my first book, but it won no award.
You can still win.
it,
Not too
it,
late.
it talked about the son of a widow
Okay.
who had a special relationship with a mother, myself,
Okay. All
so
right.
much so that even when I was living overseas in Singapore, I continued to exchange letters with her. We're talking about issues of African resilience. We're talking about issues of African culture. And our relationship grew stronger and stronger. And even though as a child, I wasn't necessarily the most well behaved, but my relationship with my mom grew stronger and stronger because we had this special bond of writing letters with each other. So that it was more of an exposition of the issue that I would sharing with her, and the replies that she would send back to me, and so on and so forth. But let's really focus on Tenant of the House. It became an award-winning book, and to mention the name of the likes of Professor Shoyinka, who is like our spiritual godfather, our scholarly godfather, or our literary godfather of the whole continent.
Yes.
That is a remarkable achievement. So, on the basis of that, did you promote that book in political circles? Did you get into trouble with some politicians, with political class? Especially
Yeah.
because I'm sure after you published your book, you were no longer a politician. Did you get into trouble with
Yes.
anybody?
Well, interestingly, the first problem I had was the lady that I made to be the female protagonist.
Uh-huh.
It was a lawmaker too, a lady
Oh, it's a
lawmaker.
real, okay, real
Yeah.
person because he says
Yeah.
it's a
So yeah.
factional book. Okay, okay.
Well, I think it was fractional, but until one of my former colleagues, who was a lady in the house,
Ooh.
accosted me and told me that she was the one I depicted in my book,
Oh my
because I
God.
said it was a single lady
Yeah.
with two children,
Oh my
and she
God.
was very boisterous and all kind of thing. And so, in fact, before I could explain to her that, look, it wasn't you, it caused a lot of problems on that. And then some of my colleagues in the parliament say, "Oh no, don't mind him. He came to expose us. He's not a
Oh my
politician.
goodness.
We sent him here to expose our, because in the book I had to all the gritty nitty about lawmaking,
Hmm.
all the
Horse
uh,
trading.
frustrating and corruption and everything that went through were all depicted in the book. And so they say, "Oh, this fellow, oh, he's not a politician.
He was a spy.
He was a spy. He came to write about
Oh
all
my
that."
God.
But at the end of the day, we laugh it off, we laugh over everything, and finally my sins were forgiven. And,
Talking
and
about, but isn't that the role of the writer? That's the role of the writer
exactly,
to shine the
exactly,
light in dark
exactly,
places.
exactly,
If a writer is passive, not talking about the issues, then that's not
exactly.
a writer. That is a conformist. That's a propagandist. So I
You're
think
right.
you did your job. Whatever name they call you, it's up to them. But I'm glad that they forgave your sins. They took out some sins. They took out some sins. They're gonna go through purgatory for all the corruption and all of that. So they should be
But
happy
the,
that you were.
the beauty was that at the premiere, the film premiere in Abuja, I invited them,
Oh my
and
goodness.
they became
That's a very brave
yes,
move.
yes, and they became big stars to them
Okay,
because I
torch
introduced
bearers.
them.
Okay,
I
okay.
introduced them. I said, "Here
Wow.
comes the tenants of the house," and then they gave them a standing clapping ovation.
Oh
Uh,
my God.
because the title again, they didn't like the title because they said, "Why do you call us tenants of the house? We are lawmakers, we are the
Mhm.
owners of the country." And I told them, "No, it's not true. You are, the country belongs to Nigerians. We are just
Mm.
tenants. The
Mm.
landlords, the
Mhm.
landlord of your parliament is the
Yes.
Nigerian
People.
people. You are just tenants. You come,
Ouch.
you pay your rent, and then go and come out, and then they laugh at it and say, "Okay, okay, okay, okay. We thought we are landlords. Now you told us you are tenants. Okay, that's fine."
Yeah, yeah, that's a very fine metaphorical depiction. That they're truly tenants.
Yes,
They owe their existence to the goodwill
yes,
of the landlord. It's not the other way around. Even though
exactly.
sometimes on our continent people would ignore that. So, how many years did it take before you felt, you know what? If this could win the Shoinka Prize, I bet this is relevant for a screen adaptation. How long did it take before you made
Yes,
this?
actually, I never thought of making it into a screen until a friend of mine who is an Irish. And that's the irony of the whole thing. I, as the author and a Nigerian, never saw that possibility until this, my friend, Cash Hogan, is an Irish film producer, was visiting Nigeria, and he came for another project. Then I just gave him the book to read, and overnight he couldn't sleep. The following day he was screaming and shouting. Saying, "Why did you got a good movie in your hand? Let's try it." I just laugh over it. Said, "Look, man, I don't want to go into all that movie. I don't, just leave me alone. It's okay." Like he said, "No, no, no. Let's think of it." So he kept pushing, and that was how I got the encouragement. And finally, I was able to. At that time, too, the government of Nigeria came up with a grant for filmmakers under the country's Bank of Industry. So we wrote a proposal, and after a lot of back and forth checks, and then a panel sat on it to check everything, they finally gave us the loan, not a grant. Because initially the idea was a grant. I understand the policy of the government was grant until people, I think they abused that process. Some people said they have collected the grant, but instead of using it for fame, some of them use it for other things, build house or buy cars. So the grant idea was stopped, and then it was changed to loan, but very small interest rates. And that was where I got it. And but
this is fascinating. So
yes,
this is also maybe a resemblance of other things that happen on the continent. An authentic author, a writer, writes a fascinating story. And it took an Irish friend to identify its potential and say, wait a minute, you're sitting on a pot of gold. It's almost like saying it's an allegory for what goes on in our continent. We got lots of diamonds, we got gold, we got petroleum, and we're not the ones that often mine it. We need our Western friends to come and remind us that you're sitting on a bucket of gold and platinum and uranium. You could be selling this out. So big shout out to your friend in Ireland. Please give a quick shout out to your friend, because that's a good friend. Because he did not come to exploit you. He came to suggest something in which you can work in collaboration. That's a good model. Give a good shout out to him.
I will. Thank you.
What's his name?
Cash Hogan.
Cash Hogan.
Yes.
Sir, you are a good model. You did not exploit. You talk about common exploration. So you got some insight from Cash Hogan, and then who did you approach? Did you knock on the door of Netflix? Hey, Netflix, open the door. This is me. I'm Dr. Okadiran. I got a powerful book. This book won an award. I want you to adapt this into a play or into a screenplay. How did you go? I know Netflix. Then California. You're you're probably at the time in Nigeria or
Nigeria.
So how did you reach out to them?
Again, I never thought that I could get a film to Netflix. Not in my wildest imagination. But as things will play out, when we were able to finally, and the process of getting a loan from a bank, the paperwork, the process took so much time, and so by the time we were able to get the film out, COVID came, and the film, the theaters were locked up. There was a lockdown.
Is that because of COVID?
Yes, COVID. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there was a lockdown. Cinemas were closed, and so we had to wait for a good time for the film to be shown. But meanwhile, the bank interest, the interest on the loan was climbing.
Was running, and you had to start paying that.
Well, I had to because the banks don't.
They don't joke with their money. They never joke with their money. Everywhere they are, they're ready.
So by the time there was a partial lockdown, we tried to go to the cinema with the film, and because of the partial lockdown, the response wasn't good enough. And then I was at a loss because I was getting worried Said, look, how do I pay back this loan? And then a friend said, look, let's try Netflix. They like films with good, rich contents, and they pay well. And then I said,
okay, so initially the film had already been produced, not
yes.
so much for Netflix per se,
it wasn't
but for the local audience in Nigeria.
Oh, yes, exactly.
I see.
Yes, Netflix
but
was
because of the knockdown, then a friend suggested, please, let's call Netflix.
Yes, miss.
That's incredible. Okay, go ahead.
Go
ahead. Tell us. Who's that friend? Maybe you should throw in the name also at some point.
I'm not sure you will like his name on print.
Okay.
He's a distributor.
Okay.
Yes, they are very professional.
Well, let's leave it that way. But that is a great idea, because then anyone can watch it from their own screen without having to go into the theater.
Exactly. So when we approach Netflix say, okay, after another back and forth, they say, okay, we can use this film, but you need to make some adjustments. You need to bring it up to our standard. So they asked us to redo the coloring, the color separation. We have to review the soundtrack. We have to review a few things, which cost another bunch of money.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was getting worried. I said, look, because I had to use my house in Abuja as a collateral.
Oh my God. We're talking about how much for the first phase, and then now 50, the second phase, we're talking close to how much, how many thousands of dollars?
I think initially was 50,000 US dollars for the main film, and then an additional 10,000 to make the color separation. Yes.
Wow.
So, at that point, I said, look, this is going more than I bargained for. If it doesn't take it, I'm in soup.
But, you don't want to be in hot water. I'm sure your wife will not be very pleased.
Exactly.
That kind of arrangement, like, where are we going? I'm going into bankruptcy or what?
Maybe this house, we're going to lose this house at this rate.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we were able to scale through. Let me just say that Netflix has a very high standard, and particularly if you want to do a global screening. Yes, we had to do so many things that I can't remember now because they are technical. I had to hire consultants, to hire agents. The film industry, I won't say it's like a mafia. I would say it's so regimental.
Okay.
They take care of themselves. You can't just you have to go through so many people. You can't just make a film. You use a film director, and then when you want to go to the cinema and go, you have to go through a registered distributor. And then when you want to go to Netflix, you have to also go through another agent that has been licensed by Netflix.
Wow.
For that aspect. And every person takes his own
share.
Cut. Yes.
It probably is almost like you're back in the House of Representatives again. Everybody needs their own. So we may think, film industry, it's a little bit more relaxed. No. Everybody got their own share. Everybody got their own quarter. So you do color separation, got to hire a new director, a new producer, a new register of, I don't know what you're calling it. Agents.
Yes. Crazy. And they charge their own fees. They charge a percentage or whatever you get from somewhere. And sometimes you have to pay up front. So it was, but finally, the day I saw the poster from Netflix, I didn't believe it. It was a dream come true. And then it started going. And I think for the first 1 or 2 weeks, it was on the top of the charts for Netflix.
No kidding. Where was it screened? Was it screening only in US, only in Nigeria, or worldwide?
It was worldwide.
No,
the contract I signed was a global contract. It was a worldwide screening, and we had a small. That time, I was, I think it was 2022 when it started on Netflix. I was in Accra then. I remember I had to have a small party for my friends. Yeah.
Of course. That's a major. It's not everybody you meet down the road, around the corner. That's Netflix production. That's a big deal.
it was a big hit.
Yeah.
Because many people, I didn't even know that so many people have tried to go into Netflix and they've not succeeded.
Yeah.
Even countries, so many countries
No
have not
kidding.
have a single film on
Wow.
Netflix
Wow.
at that
Wow.
time. And
What would you
here was
say? What would you say was the main success factor? Was it because film was already made? Was the book was already adapted for the screen? Was it because of the quality of the story? Or was it because you're willing to jump through all the hoops that Netflix had put in front of you? What, and maybe a combination of them. Tell
yeah.
our viewers what do you think accounted for
I, I
that? What are the
think I think the first thing is the quality of the story.
quality of the
Because
story? Okay.
yes, because at that time Netflix was looking for content, rich content, film with very rich content, and they also wanted things that are different.
Different. Okay. From
Yes,
the
from
usual road.
usual, yeah. This is a
Different
thing
stories.
that somebody said.
Mhm.
They said I had three themes
Mhm.
packed in one film, in one story.
Okay. Okay.
Three themes.
What
You
are
have
they?
a
If
theme
you
of
remember them?
conflict
Conflict.
resolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and then the theme of political
Mhm.
African political arrangement,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then I had a love story.
Oh
I
my
think
God. That
some people like the love story more than any other thing there.
yeah, that's a very interesting one. So that's powerful. That's powerful. So
Yeah,
these are the three ingredients that you could say
yes,
Netflix was looking for.
yes.
A powerful story, a political related story, and a love story combined. That's a trilogy. That's the powerful trilogy, right?
and, and of course, I had a famous film director, Kunle
Mhm.
Afolayan,
Who is Nigerian?
who Nigeria. He has
Mhm.
won so many prizes as a film director, and I also was able to meet up to the standard that
Mhm.
Netflix wanted,
Mhm.
even though it cost me some extra money. But
Mhm.
they were happy that I was able to meet up to their standard. It was
Fantastic.
much later that I think Netflix now started the second approach
Mhm.
of collaborating
Mhm.
with authors on
Mm,
making films together.
I
Uh,
see. I see.
at the time I did what I did, Netflix was buying already made films. But
Mm,
later, the concept now changed, or no, well, it added to that original concept of
books.
collaborating with writers.
Okay. So maybe they saw the success of your book and they said, you know what, maybe there's a market here for us.
Yes, yes.
Wow. That is
So they now
interesting.
started bargaining, I mean, collaborating with writers to
Mhm.
do films together. I don't know
Yes.
the policy now, but I
Mhm.
think that was what was happening after my own film came out.
Very interesting. You signed a contract with them for about how much? And if you're okay, throw in some numbers, how much you're able to, recover your costs and take care of the family, and maybe go back to the research lab, which is go and live life again and find new stories to tell. But throw in some
Yeah.
numbers that I'm sure this is
Yes,
going to be
I think
very, very
yeah,
inspiring.
I think the money from Netflix was 100,000 US dollars,
Okay.
but I have to pay out of that to my agent,
Yep.
and a percentage. I think it
Mhm.
was 10% or something,
Mhm.
and then the production cost
Mhm.
shot up to about 60.
Mhm.
Uh, if you want to add as bank interest rates,
Mhm.
you can
Mhm.
pay 5,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so you able to pay for the production,
Mhm.
and then you have some another 25 or so
Mhm.
$1,000
Mhm.
uh, in your pocket.
Your pocket.
Uh,
That's not bad for a writer.
yeah, but you look at it,
That is really good, doctor. That is really good
but
because
you know the span of years.
yeah,
5,000 for 4 years is it's not bad,
yeah,
but for a writer, I think
that's a big
beyond
deal.
the financial uh, returns, I
Mhm.
think I'm happy that I was able to make some impact
Yes, yes, because
among the
I'm
writing
sure
community. Yeah.
it widened the audience for your book. Talk about how many books or how many prints you've had after that, and talk about people from where are reading the book? Talk about the number of books and maybe.
Yes, and I think the first print was 20,000 copies, and that one was able to be sold off just because we had to do a nationwide reading tour.
And
Yes.
that was before the film was produced.
For the film, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
For the film, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was followed by an American reading tour sponsored by Arik Air.
Okay.
Arik Air, the Nigerian airline. It was at that time, Arik Air was going to open his air travel to the US from Nigeria. And they said, well, since this book has just come out and you will be like our PR, do PR for us, we will sponsor you to go to 15 states in the US.
Wow.
And when you go with our banner of Arik Air, and you go sleepless because most of the audience will be Nigerians or Africans.
Yeah, travel, yes.
Yeah, so each time I'm reading, the audience will be there, and then behind me will be big banner of Arik.
Yeah, that is not bad. And are they still flying? Are they still flying between Africa and Nigeria? I mean, Nigeria and
yes,
US?
Yes. Up to last year, I think they're still flying.
Fantastic. Yes, so you did the US tour of 15 states?
Yes, and I was so honored to do readings in some Ivy League universities like Harvard. I was so, I mean, I used to tell my children that I went to Harvard.
Absolutely.
And they asked me, did you go to Harvard to study or to read?
Daddy went to speak at Harvard. Because you're reading, you're speaking, right?
Yes.
Nobody can discount that. I'm sure there's a video from there. So you did, where did you have the best reception from? I bet African diaspora, Nigerians in diaspora, people that were familiar with the movie or with the book.
Yeah. It was, no, even then, the movie wasn't yet out.
Okay.
It was just before the movie. So, and that took care of another 20,000 copies.
Okay.
Yes. I would say I had my best outing when I went to Florida. Because they had a sizable African community.
Miami, Orlando.
Orlando.
Yes. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. I lived briefly in Orlando. There's a lot of people there. I did not know that a good number. Okay.
So by that time, about another 20,000 copies were exhausted. And then when the film came out, another 20,000 prints came out again. I mean, also exhausted. So I would say it helped to push the sale of the book and also encourage other writers to try their hands in film adaptation.
Absolutely.
And I would say I consider this as my happiest and most important outcome of this project. The ability to also impart on other writers.
Yes. To inspire a new generation of writers who see my work, if it's good enough, it can have a global audience.
Yes.
So 3 prints of each 20,000, that's not bad, because by most African standards, even to get 20,000 off the shelves is not a joke.
Yes.
Wow. So at the current moment, where does it stand? Are you still under contract with Netflix? Is it out of contract? What are the next steps?
Well, the film is out of contract with Netflix, and Netflix is done with the book and with the film. And now the film is back in my possession. And what we are trying to do now is to see how we can get the film out into other countries that has similar problem like Nigeria, with cattle farmer rights. And we are also talking to a French producer, a French distributor, who can put it in French so that some of the Francophone countries can also use the film. And
Cameroon has that problem. I'll bet, and maybe definitely not the size of Nigeria, but we have that
yes,
same problem because I know I'm from the English side, but I know that the French side they also have similar problems too.
yes. And
Wow.
you also had an experience of the farmer cattle issue. So you
Yes,
are
absolutely. We need to talk offline about that because I need to just put on my thinking hat and see where else can
yes,
you go with this because
exactly.
sometimes when it's too close to you, you are the doctor,
Mhm,
you cannot
mhm.
self-medicate, you cannot, cannot prescribe because the injury is too close to home, but somebody else
No,
looking with fresh eyes can see that. I
yes,
really want to applaud you, Dr. Okadiran, for such an amazing run,
thank you.
going from text to screen, and yes, doing it and inspiring a new generation of writers. Now, I know that we don't have unlimited time, so I want to be mindful of the fact that it's afternoon in Ghana, in Accra. You probably want to still go and enjoy your Sunday. If there's a young writer somewhere in Africa, somewhere in African diaspora, who has an idea, they want to write, but they're afraid that writing doesn't always make you rich. What would be your advice to them?
Well, I will advise that writer to sit down and first of all write a very good story, and to let that writer know that well, there is a whole there are so many outlets there looking for rich content, whether to publish as a novel, or to use as a film adaptation, or even to for drama, theater, stage use. But important thing is to get a good story out. Yes, and also to advise a writer to make sure that he or she does the best he can do to when writing. I advise people to do a lot of research. For example, in terms of the house, I had to do a lot of research. I had to visit a Fulani community. I spent a weekend there to observe how the cattle rearers uh, operate, to live with them,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
eat with them, so that when I depict it in my novel,
Mhm.
even the Fulani will say, "Wow, this is real.
It's
This
real.
is my story. This is."
Yes.
I mean, yeah, when the film came out, one diplomat in Accra, Ghana, was almost on his feet. I mean, he's a Fulani. He said, "This is my village. This is real."
Yeah.
So I like to advise my young writers to be as authentic as possible. They should
Mm.
do research. They should, even if they can't do it, they can hire people to help them research into what they are writing.
Mm.
Because too often our writers just sit down in the corner of their bedroom and put something together. They finish and then they take it to a printer, and that's all. I said, no,
Rich.
yes, you need to make it rich, and
Yes.
also to let them know that writing is a good walking stick, but a bad crutch. That
Okay.
is,
What does that mean? Oh, a good
yeah, it
walking
means
stick and a bad crutch.
yes. You
Okay.
mean initially you don't depend too much on it.
Okay.
Get a job, get another job
Yeah.
that will take care of the immediate needs while you are waiting for
Okay.
the book
Don't be
to
too
come out.
dependent on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
because sometimes our young people are so idealistic and emotional. I say, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" "Oh, I'm a writer." I say, "Okay, I know, but where? What else?" He said, "No, no, no. I'm waiting for the book to come out." I know. So, it can take years. So, but if you can do it, you can be a teacher. You can be
Yes.
teaching by the side. You
Yes.
can be a trader. You can do
Yes.
something, but
Yes.
do something while you are waiting for the book to come out. That will
Thank
give you
you.
peace of mind
Yeah.
and make you to be more authentic in your
Yes.
work.
I'll be honest with you, Dr. Wale. I've not read Tenant of the House. I've only read excerpts. But here is how I fell in love with your writing. And part of the reason why I invited you to come to our channel, I read your expedition, I think it was to Zanzibar,
Yes.
was your travel log.
Have a look. Yes.
It
Zanzibar.
felt like I was there with you by your side to Zanzibar.
Thank you.
So talk about immersion, talk about authenticity, the sights, the sounds, the smells. I was right there with you. So when I read that, I felt like this is a genuine writer from whom I can learn, with whom I can collaborate. And so that's how the initial impulse came to me to approach you. And I'm thankful that you've been patient. We wanted to go through the travel side, it didn't work. But with your recent work in Morocco, we might find another opportunity through the lens of travel writing and travel teaching. You're teaching a new generation of writers based on what you experienced in Morocco. Do you want to give us just a little teaser there? Because one day we might have to ask you to come back with some of your students from Morocco to talk about how do you become a travel writer, not by dreaming about it, but by living it and sharing it with the world. So give us a little teaser, because that would be maybe a
Thank
future
you.
episode.
Yeah, thank you. I like to read National Geographic as a kid, and so I became an addict of National Geographic magazine. I subscribed. I still subscribe. Well, I'm 40 years now.
Wow.
And I love the way those writers, National Geographic, depicted their travels, and I learned a lot from them. So, and my work initially, I mean, as a writer, I traveled a lot. I've traveled to all the 36 countries 36 states in Nigeria.
Okay.
And so I made it a policy that anytime I travel, I will write a small story about my trip, and that was why I started. Yes. And then when
something I can learn, because I travel a fair bit too. I go everywhere, but I've not often found the discipline to sit down and write. But I'm going to adopt that from today. Thank you so much.
Yes. And then when I started traveling to other countries, I did the same.
Wow.
And now I have 3 collections of travel stories.
That is amazing. That's amazing.
And so when I was asked to come to Morocco as a scholar in residence at the University of Mohammed VI, and I was asked to do something for the students. I said, well, along my project, because my project in the university was about my life. I said I wanted to see how literature, medicine, and politics can go together. And that was what I went to do in the university. I call
literature, medicine, and politics.
Politics, yes.
Why medicine and politics?
Because that's my life. I'm a medical doctor by training.
Okay.
Okay. I went into politics, and now I'm a full-time writer.
So you took out your white coat.
Yes.
You hung it on the wall.
Yes.
You took out your I don't know what the politician.
I went to the podium.
Hat of the politician. You took out the window. You say, "Give me a pen and paper. Can somebody give me?" And then they start writing. That's what I'm saying. But wait, now people are waiting for you to save some lives. What do you mean? We need more MDs in Africa than anywhere else.
I still practice medicine. I do telemedicine now because I have a private hospital in Nigeria, being run by my partner, and so we still communicate virtually. And anytime I'm in Nigeria, I pop in, and my patients will flock back and start dancing that the doctor has come back. Doctor has come back.
You know that doctors on mission.
The second day I disappear again.
Doctors on mission to change the world, because look at the impact of your work on Netflix. If you had stayed only in the white coat, we'll probably not have as many more writers inspired. Exactly. I'm also very, very inspired now to work on a project which I'll be calling you, and also to connect you with a lady who is an African American who has a Netflix production already ready to be distributed. And she comes to Lagos regularly. She's also working on a Lagos version of that. Something that I want us to offline. Very interesting, very, very fascinating lady. She has actually been on this show before, but I would like for us to make that connection offline. I want to close this by asking you, what is the best book you've read? And there's one thing to be a writer, is another thing, to read and enjoy. What's the best book you've read and enjoyed most?
Well, very good question. I would say Dr. Zhivago. It's a Russian book. Because I have this, people say it's a strange addiction to Russian authors, Dostoevsky, and the rest.
Only
And
read one Russian author, so I'm not even going to say anything. But what is it about, and what is the title?
Dr. Zhivago is about a doctor that went to during the French and Russian Revolution. He was on the side of the people against the government, and he volunteered himself as a doctor and a fighter. And a lot of things happened during that time.
Wow.
It stayed in me because it was a powerful book.
Yes.
Pasternak,
And
written by Pasternak.
And being a doctor yourself, so that
Yes,
is
yes.
that's absolutely
Exactly. So I would
yes,
say it's
yes.
one of the books I've read that I really enjoyed.
Fantastic. I love to hear about authors that I've not heard about. So that's something for me to go look out for. What is your best quote?
Well, I would say Wale Okediran's quotes that the man dies in him who keeps silent in the face of oppression.
The man dies in him who keeps silent in the face of oppression. That is a
Yes,
powerful one.
that's what
That is
Okediran.
very
It has
powerful.
always been my motto. Sometimes when I want to stay back, when I see something going wrong, when I want to say, "Oh well, it's not my business," then I will remember. Then I will say, "Okay, let me do something."
That is incredible. And let's say you attend an event, you're well traveled throughout the continent, and you go to the table, there's food on the table, there's a jollof rice from Nigeria, there's jollof rice from Senegal, there's jollof rice from Cameroon, there's maybe ungali from Kenya, there's ogbono from Nigeria, there's okra soup from Cameroon, there's a whole bunch of them.
Sure.
Which are the two that you're most likely gonna take and nip a little bit?
Well, because I've eaten too much of rice.
Okay.
I've just been introduced to ugali when I went to Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And essentially it was a vegetable soup.
Yes.
But I would love ugali any day with either vegetable or okra soup.
Oh, okay.
Different.
Okay, something different. Enough of rice.
Enough of rice.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Okediran. This has been an amazing episode of the Story Warrior Conversation, Story Warrior Podcast. I actually see this as a fireside. It's almost like we're back in Africa, sitting around a fireside and just, talking back and forth. Any last word for someone who is writing and is facing writer's block? Maybe they're losing ideas.
I'll just say go for a walk.
Okay.
Leave the manuscript and go for a walk.
Okay. I don't qualify to say, but I'll still go for a run because I have my best ideas when I'm running.
Okay.
When I'm running, I have
Yes.
more ideas and I can even gather together. So you say go for a walk. Yes.
Yes. Yes. By the time you come back, everything, the juice will start flowing again.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the work you're doing for our continent. On behalf of all writers, thank you for the work you're doing as a medical doctor. And thank you for the inspiration to all of us who are looking for ways to grow, ways to improve ourselves, and above all, ways to tell authentic African stories, because there's nothing like that in the marketplace. Thank you so much, Dr. Okadiran.
Appreciate it.